So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be doing this project and to showing the process with you. So it's really the situation we are now in with some things we decided to treat a certain way, in some things we still have to think about. So that's the, oh, where do I look? That's the scheme of the project. It's about mollusk and coral collection. The objective here is to take the initial status of the project of the collection, and then to make pictures of the specimens, the labels, to allow a more convenient inventory, and also because it's a you probably know the Museum of Neuchatel. It's a human size big, or I don't know how to say, but I mean, we have some place to work on, but when you begin to have a bigger team, then you have problem, or we struggled a bit in having place to work for every people. So to have more specific working places is easier than to manage. So people are then making the inventory, and there will be a stage of revision of the collection, and then when it's all normalized and databased, the data will be accessible for a larger audience. So here I will show a bit closer to you the inventory, and the next step of this would be a work in progress. So we will look for geolocalization of the data. Before starting the project, you have like two part of the collection, a historic and more recent part. And the objective for March 2024 is that everything is databased, every Swiss material is revised, and most of the European and part of the South American material also revised. And then how we work on this, so it's a bit closer look. You have three kind of situation. The historical part, the part that is already been worked on by the predecessors. So the specimens are glued on small wooden plates, and the information is handwritten on it. We lack of the original label for this collection, so this part of the collection. Here, everything is conditioned so that the specimen cannot leave its wooden plate, because that's something that happens after some time. The glue breaks and the specimen gets free. So now they are kept together, they are all photographed, and since almost 2 days, they are all digitalized. But now there is a need of homogenization or normalization of the data so that it can be databased, and also to make sure it's properly inventorized. Then there is the second part of the historic collection, which are not as homogeneously conditioned as the first one. So here you have also some very nice discoveries. Here you have a box with digestive baking powder that was used to store this specimen. So all the old boxes, we had a discussion about this. We decided to keep the ones that have personality. Because it also tells us something about the history of its collection, and for sure the specimen is stored so that the box will not damage the specimen. Here, and then the more recent part of the collection, the conditioning is not a problem, but for sure we still have to make sure the data is in the database of the collection and that the link from our database to Infofauna, for instance, is made so that we know it's already there. It usually happens at our place that the collection are already on Infofauna, but not yet in our database. So for the inventory, that's something you all know for sure. So the first thing we say to any person that comes and work on this project is that every information has a value. So every information that is on the label has to be inventorized in a way, and also for sure the name of the picture and then the ID of the entry. And then you have some, it's a very homemade distinction. It's nothing Darwin Core approved, so please don't take that as a valid thing. Just, yeah, in general, you have some information about the identification, of the specimen, information about the specimen itself, about the collector, and also about the location of the collect. And even if, as we've seen already in the presentation before, even if the name sounds very familiar, almost each concept here can be ambiguous. So this makes a very nice equation. So you have a part of doubt, you have many specimens, you have many people working on the project, and then that brings you to a high chance to have non-homogeneous data. So what do we do then? Here's some examples. We need standards to tell people how to manage the punctuation we find sometimes in the label. You don't know if they were very happy to find something from Albis Zurich, or if they were sure it was written that on the original label. You always have, we always have a doubt of what this punctuation means. The sure thing is that when it's linked with an identification of the specimen, probably this means something important for us to keep on. So that's the only punctuation we keep, actually, for now. But still, every information is on the picture, which will be linked to the specimen. So it's not very, it's not that we lose information, it's just we interpret. And then something you always think it's easy to guess, it's the number of specimens. Well, no, not always. So we see there is at least one. And also for the number of specimens, so there is probably something that you found in a way or in another in your collections. There is a unit where there are specimens from distinct event of collect. And this one is a bit tricky because the first is from 2D, the second and third from Dr. Filippi, but then here it's written second and third first, and then the first second. So, well, just that we interpret it as 2 entries in the database and things like that. Then the problem of knowing who is who in the collectors. So we in 2015 we already made a first work on the collectors we had in the collection. We shared with Infofauna and JBIF, and I think it could be a very of a high value if at the end of these projects of SwissCollNet there would be an opportunity of all the work we've done in our collections to somehow make them together or try to make them correspond so that we have also a better idea of who was collecting and where and on which collection in Switzerland they are deposited. And also, so here I know now why there is a punctuation point. So there are two provenance for one individual, but they are not the same. So in this case, I don't know why there was like that, but for sure we decided not to put a distinct location, but to have that as a remark. And yeah, it's almost lost data. Oh, sorry. So how we do to face these challenges of inventory? We decided to have a training material as a starter for newcomers because we work with 2 persons that are staying along the project, but also many interns. And the problem is when you don't know, it can be tricky. That's the worst case scenario because then people just decide things without even knowing they are deciding just because you think it's the only way to make it, but there is never one way. So then we propose them to train on pictures and then work on it with the results. We have a weekly discussion about ambiguous cases so that everyone feels free to say, I don't know how to treat that one, and then we decide together how it's treated, and we register all the rules we face so that we can later on also normalize again the whole collection in regard of the rules we've decided. Some things that are still needed to be addressed is the archive documents. We have the possibility to join the PDF or JPEG or information, so that's already good, but still the idea at some point, maybe not now for this project, but the idea would be to handle the concept of document in the database and to be able to have an idea of the document which is linked to the specimen or to the specimens, and within this information would be also described what is the content of the document. So probably we should look for how databases are constructed in archive collections, but maybe you already faced this case, and this would be very valuable for us to know how. Even more, because that's a bit aside, but we had the opportunity, the Federal Office of Culture made a call for projects about collection, about provenance work on collection that are in the colonial period of time. And a colleague of mine who is responsible of the archives deposited a project, and she had the grant. So this will be also a nice way so that the collection that are now registered will shine to another field, not in biology, but also in historical sciences. And then, so that was for the inventory. And then the geolocalization, it's something that is already addressed for the Swiss specimens. But for the exotic specimen, the idea is to try or to make a trial with our data in July this year, and then February next year, to provide some define and provide good practices about this process, and this will be made with Infofauna and GBIF, and for sure there will be a feedback for you in this period. And Pascal is here if you have some questions more specifically to this this part. Here, I would like to thank all the mollusk team that has been working in this project, or still work, or will work. It's a very big opportunity we have here with this project, and I'm very glad to have these amazing people that are working with me on that. And thank you for your attention. And maybe just on the side, I take the opportunity here to tell you that in March this year, we will host at the Museum of Neuchatel a conference about the question of decolonization in natural history museums. So that you will probably get an information official, but yeah.
Thank you, Celia. Any questions on your very interesting talk?
Yeah, thank you so much. This presentation is ideal because it's very representative of what we have been facing, especially in this very first phase of SwissCollNet. I guess that probably you choose that group because you thought that the project was perfectly doable. And I would like to know your point of view. Would you say now that you probably underestimated the complexity to tackle these collections, in the sense that suddenly you discover one specimen and associated to 3 labels, or only 1 label for 3 specimens? And I think that this is very representative of what we are dealing now, the complexity of these historical collections.
Yeah. We had already an idea of what we could face, because actually we started part of the inventory in 2012 already, and this experience is very useful now to do this work. But for sure, the things that so I showed you there examples of the collection that is kind of already normalized by the former curators, because there was already people that took the old label and handwrited it on the wooden plate and things like that. Now with the other part, it gets a bit trickier. So I think we're still on a general. It's still good for the project, but we'll see.
One last question for Celia. Does it work? Does the mic work? Sorry.
Over.
Jurian.
Thanks, that was really wonderful. I was wondering about, maybe I missed it, but the exclamation mark on the labels. Do you have an interpretation for that?
No.
Because
or I have many, but I could not define yet which one.
In taxonomic literature of plants, an exclamation mark means I have seen this.
Okay.
Like if you've seen a specimen in a particular herbarium, you add an exclamation mark after the acronym. So I was wondering whether that means something in that context.
But after maybe after the name, but after the country also can be, okay. Yeah, thank you. Oh, too bad.
Was there any question here in the background? No, not anymore. Thank you, Celia.
Thank you very much.